What happens after the Supreme Court declares segregation in public schools unconstitutional? The answer wasn't immediate integration, it was something called all deliberate speed. Most people know Brown versus Board of Education as the case that ended school segregation. But the real challenge came after that decision. How exactly do you dismantle a segregated school system across an entire country? That question led to the Supreme Court's follow-up decision known as Brown 2. The case combined several lawsuits from different states. These included Kansas, South Carolina, Virginia, and Delaware. In each case, black children were denied admission to schools attended by white students. State laws either required segregation or allowed school systems to enforce it. Parents challenged those laws in federal court. They argued that segregation violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. In 1954, the Supreme Court delivered its historic ruling in Brown v. Board of Education, often called Brown 1. The court unanimously held that racial segregation in public schools is unconstitutional. But declaring segregation illegal was only the first step. The next problem was figuring out how to actually desegregate thousands of schools. Communities across the country faced complicated challenges. School districts had different facilities, different laws, and strong local resistance. So the Supreme Court took the case again. This time the question was simple but powerful. What is the proper remedy for unconstitutional school segregation? In other words, how should desegregation actually happen? Chief Justice Earl Warren wrote the opinion for the court. The justices recognized that desegregating schools nationwide would be extremely complex. Rather than impose one national plan, the court decided that local federal district courts should oversee the process. These courts were closer to the communities involved. District courts could evaluate local conditions and supervise school systems directly. They would ensure that school authorities made a prompt and reasonable start toward integration. The Supreme Court sent the cases back to the lower courts. Those courts were ordered to supervise desegregation with all deliberate speed. The rule from Brown 2 is clear. When segregation laws are declared unconstitutional, federal courts must supervise remedies and ensure desegregation moves forward. School authorities carry the burden of showing good faith efforts to comply. If they request delays, they must prove those delays are justified and in the public interest. But the phrase, all deliberate speed, created a problem. It was flexible, maybe too flexible. Many states used that vague language to slow down integration for years. Some school districts delayed desegregation well into the 1960s and even the 1970s. Because of this decision, federal district courts became the front lines of the civil rights movement. Judges across the country were suddenly responsible for enforcing school desegregation. Civil rights lawyers repeatedly returned to these courts to challenge delay tactics. The struggle for school integration became a long legal battle. Brown 2 shows that winning a constitutional ruling is only the beginning. Turning that ruling into real change can take years of enforcement and oversight. The Supreme Court said segregation must end. But the phrase, all deliberate speed, shaped how slowly that transformation would unfold across America.